Yes, and they're actually going to be here today. Yeah. Fortunate set of circumstances for a change. So. Hi, Vicky.
Oh, good morning.
Morning. You hear us? You hear us? Good.
Oh, yes. Hello?
So how do I test to see if is the mic's working? Oh, I guess if I turn them on. Have to Zoom. Can you hear us, Lois?
I can hear you.
Yes, we're good.
That's how I would do it.
It helps if I turn the microphone on. Yeah. Yes.
Did everybody verify that their microphones are on?
Hello? I thought it was, but
It looks
Yeah.
like, yep. Here.
it just isn't, I don't see it. I don't think it echoes right. Lois, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right, well, it's 9 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. Did a mic check, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands.
And one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lois needs to mute.
Oh,
Is she on?
uh,
She's not in the meeting. Just ask her. Lois, can you mute your mic?
okay, there we go. All right. I think there's any conflict of interest. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Sorry. Pull up agenda here. Okay, so I guess we're to reviewing of the information from the survey. I think our goal here today would be to look at our 2 outreaches that we have coming up, how we're going to use the outreaches with the information we received from the it's a company that did the plan,
Networks. No.
Networks North. And we have, you
Maybe I
want to
could,
introduce them?
that is not Barry.
Oh, I said, okay.
We appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I could back up and give a little more background.
Yes,
here.
please
So,
do.
At the township board meeting last Tuesday, a couple days ago, Tuesday, the proposal from Leah was accepted as far as the community outreach workshops that are on the horizon for us. In subsequent communication with them, I reached out to Barry to let him know that their proposal was accepted. And then I told him about upcoming meetings. And he said he was potentially available to attend today with us, even though it's his agreement isn't signed yet, but it's been approved. So I expect him to come in any moment. It's kind of a good opportunity for us to hit the ground running with the community engagement workshops and discuss how we're going to do that. I hope I gave him the address and the agenda and everything. So maybe we could go on to the survey until he comes back in. But
You want to lead off with the survey? Because I'm not
sure.
more about this than I do, so.
So Denise shared with everyone today, I guess, a couple of things. One, the preliminary report that came out yesterday or day before. And then that was an incomplete number of responses. They were working hard to get the responses in. And then just last night, I think it was an email from Zach with the final, and then Denise forwarded that to everyone. So we've had this for a couple hours.
Easy reading.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot.
there's a lot of comments, obviously.
Yeah, the comments.
Yes,
That's really what
which is great.
it is. I've skimmed it, and probably you have as well, but I'm not sure I've really dug into it yet. We had hoped that this would be available to us before this meeting, long before this meeting, but not long before, a couple of days before this, but that didn't happen. So I wanted to remind everyone, and as I did in the email this morning, that this group recommends to the Township Planning Commission action. So the Township Planning Commission is scheduled to meet next week. So any comments that we have on this should be in the form of a recommendation as far as accepting this report. I'm sure there's a lot of folks who are interested in the results. So I know Denise had a comment about the title of this being default report. And then also subject of cross tabulations came up as far as that is essentially tabulating the results along a particular variable. If we wanted to know what longtime residents think about something versus newer residents, we could separate out the responses so that we get a better idea, digging into the data a little bit deeper. Networks Northwest can do that for us, as I understand, but then we also are getting the data in an Excel format. So we could do our own sorting later. I suspect we don't really know right now exactly the kind of cross tabulations we might want in its entirety. So if we have ideas on that, that'd be great, but hopefully we'll be able to dig into that a little bit further as we digest this information further. Does anybody have any reactions to what we have from Networks Northwest?
I just wanted, I sent Zach a text about the phrase default report, and it is, the survey says default report because it is the report Qualtrics automatically generates. The software allows you to manipulate the report by switching questions around, and those would be considered generated reports or manual reports. So this is just the standard format.
So can that be changed? Can they change the
They
word
can
default?
reorganize it in a different order or with the cross tab information, but that would not be this is the pure data.
Okay.
You know, so.
So this is it.
Yeah, we can do with it, what we can cross tab it, which means we can have different keywords maybe pulled out and cross tabbed and bring them together and see what that information gives to us.
We said we are going to get an Excel spreadsheet of this.
That was part of the deliverables that we asked for.
Okay.
Just because it may be 2 or 3 months before we think about
Another question.
another question that,
Right.
and rather than,
You know, if, because I cannot recall, are we to get the original surveys back as well?
I believe so.
Okay, that was my hope.
Yeah, we should. I don't know what we're going to do with them, but
Well, yeah, I don't either, but
Yes.
when you have a count of 623 for the age group you fall into, and then, you know, the numbers vary. I don't know if someone just didn't answer a question or, and I really don't know if it matters now because this is just a kind of a background information for the discussions to be in the held in the workshops.
Mhm.
Sure.
So,
Mhm.
Is that considered a pretty good number
Yes.
of results that we got back?
you wanted to get, I think 20% or more.
Yeah, I think we figured it was like probably 1/3 of all the adults in the township are represented here, because there's
Yeah.
2,700 roughly residents. There's a lot of older folks in the township, as you can see here,
Yes.
you know, but you subtract out the children and it's probably 2,000 or so, and we've got 600 or some.
So what
I
is
think
the
Lois
final?
said there's 2023 surveys were mailed out.
Okay.
What's the final number of exactly how many we get responses to?
623.
623
That is the number?
on the
Mhm.
front page. Some of those would be one household, because one in my family, one did the paper and one did online. So both of us could have our own opinion.
But that would be counted as two, not just one, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's good then.
Yeah. So even if we divided 623 by 2, say everybody that responded did that, that would still be 311. So,
Well, it's still a voting members. I don't think we need to
Yeah.
divide it. It's still,
Right.
yeah,
Good
right?
number.
So. And the township's population is,
2,700.
You include kids.
figure that out.
approximately, yeah.
It'd be nice to have the percentage of exactly
Mhm.
where we're at. Okay, what is everybody's idea of a goal today to? Well, I know we want to find a meeting location.
Well, we should,
I have some information about the two places that I looked at,
Okay. All right.
discuss that. Now, I looked at Turtle Creek Ballroom.
Here.
And, got in touch with and looked at Samuel's farm.
Oh, yeah.
Planning Commission. That's kind of the breakdown. Turtle Creek Ballroom is what you would normally think of as a big meeting room. They have all of the supporting things like a PA system and a screen and restrooms that are close to the meeting room. Parking would not be at the hotel because they only have a limited amount of parking for hotel visitors there. So you'd have to park at the casino and then enter there. It's a non-smoking casino now, so that's nice. Go up 2 escalators, down a hall. So if you're mobility impaired, that may be actually more of an issue than going to Samuel's farm or perhaps to the school, which I didn't look at. He said usually they charge $750 a night for the ballroom, meeting room, but since we're a shorter period of time and perhaps also because we're local, he said it would be $400 plus a fee for water and coffee. Any questions about that?
I did talk to a friend of mine that's, he works at the Woodland School. And they said, I think their area holds about 160 some people. And I don't know much more about it than that. He was gonna get me a contact that I could to give you, but that's another possibility. It'd be easy drive in. There's a lot of room there. I don't know anything about this, the Samuel's Farm Hall, so.
Samuel's Farm Hall is rural. It's down Skigmog Point Road. You can swipe left. Yeah. That's the ballroom.
Okay, oh, sorry.
It's
I don't wanna see
it's a clean building. It's not really a barn. Porta john outside.
Is that the building? Oh, that's the building interior, but the
Yeah.
exterior was that
Yeah,
other part.
yeah.
Oh.
So then you can swipe to the right and
I
pass
think
that
it would
down.
be,
This is interior.
oh, okay. Very clean.
The
Yes.
lady, Mary Ann Rivers, was very nice. She's part of the board. This building is unheated. She said particularly if you're getting there in October or at any point, you probably ought to advertise that it's unheated. And they have a handicap area that is nearby for parking. And you can see there that we would have to provide our own projector and screen. They do have plenty of outlets. And the fee there was suggested a $50 donation.
I've been to an event at Samuel's Hall. It was nice out, so I can't speak to it not being heated.
Mhm.
There was plenty of parking. It was easy to get into.
Yeah.
And the bonus is maybe they would even do a tour before or after as well. Probably easier to get to than the casino, but then the school is heated and
Yeah, right.
well, it's great that we have several options here.
Yeah.
Maybe before
Yep.
going much farther, we should introduce Barry Hicks
Yep.
to our group here. As I mentioned before you got here, Barry, the circumstances with Leah, the township board approved your contract on Tuesday. And in some email exchanges and discussions with Keith, it turned out that Barry was available to join us today. So we thought, let's take advantage of that and ask him to join us and maybe you could start off by sort of walking through your proposal or your work steps in terms of, I'm not sure everyone on this committee has seen that. So maybe just verbally go through that.
Thank you and good morning. Yeah, I'm Barry Hicks. I'm from the Land Information Access Association, Leah. You guys are working with us now, as I'm sure you're aware, to do the public input sessions. I'm the community planner. I'm the only community planner there at the moment. We also have other staff that work on geographic information projects, IT projects, community outreach. Up North Live is run out of the Leah offices, so local cable television access, all that kind of stuff. So those are all tools at our disposal to help out. So we're looking forward to helping with this process. I'm just now receiving information as of yesterday from Randy, who's filled me in a little bit on some of the things that are going on. Sounds like you just got a survey back from Networks Northwest you're looking at right now. I haven't done a deep dive on that yet since I just got it yesterday afternoon, but that's all good information to have. So yeah, we were brought on with the understanding we're going to be helping do public input for at least 2 in-person sessions. We want to kind of do, the first one will be more of a broad overview where we want to survey people, give people the chance to discuss a little bit, have some ideas passed around. We'll get more into the nuts and bolts of that. I'm being a little vague at the moment intentionally because I don't think it's fully developed yet. And the idea usually from that first session when we do these visioning processes that we go through when updating a master plan is then to narrow it down for that second session to get into some more specific topics that we want to get people to provide a little feedback on. So we're helping facilitate that process. In addition to myself, Matt Cowell, who's our executive director, is going to be helping quite a bit on this as well. He'll be joining myself and Randy. I assume you're also going and out to the public input session so that we have plenty of people around to answer questions and to get input and to have conversations. I think that's the biggest thing is we want to be able to let people know they can be comfortable, relax, talk to us. I'm glad to hear the places you're suggesting because I always like to suggest if you can get away from town hall, like for this session, it's usually pretty good because people, I don't know, when they come to a government building, they kind of get their guard up a little bit, but we want them to know that they can just talk to us about whatever the issues are they want addressed and to discuss in the master plan. So yeah, thank you for letting me join you. Normally on last minute notice, I'm not always available, but it worked out today. The timing was perfect. I thought, okay, I want to come in and at least introduce myself and kind of hear a little bit about what some of your thoughts are for these sessions, what you're hoping to get out of it. And bearing in mind with us just coming in right now, I may not have the background yet on exactly what the specific topics are you guys want to get into, but that's what I'm here to do, learn a little bit about that and get us started. So thank you.
Maybe I could add a little, oh, go ahead.
Do you have an email address we can use to contact you?
Yes. So my email address is bhicks, HICKS. And that's at LIA, which is LIAA .org.
Does it have to be capped, Leah?
All
Also.
lowercase. It's yeah.
Okay. And then one of the concerns we had is on the venues is what type of equipment you need for us to provide, or do you provide it, like the speaker, the mics and the speakers and.
So, I mean, it could depend on the venue. Now we have the ability to provide, projectors and easels and foam boards and everything to hang maps and, do large scale printing and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to the microphones and things, I'd have to double check with our media center to see what kind of PA equipment they have that's available that would be portable. Generally, we don't bring stuff like that with us when we go. But if that's something that you need me to check out, I can see what we have depending on the venue.
Would there be a fee for that if you needed to bring equipment of
No.
some sort?
No, anything that we need to bring, we've already kind of budgeted to do, whatever equipment, supplies, printing, if we need handouts and things like that, we're included.
Do you have like a, maybe just a one-page sheet that you could give us of things we need to consider for a venue for you guys to operate? Like what are the things that you really need to have there at a
So-
venue like that?
Yeah, so I don't have like a pre-canned one-page
Mhm.
sheet, but depending on your venue, what I would suggest is I'd like to check it out at least and see what kind of facility it is and what we're sort of working with. And then it's going to depend on what you want to do specifically for this. Now, to give you an idea, my thought behind it is when you do a visioning session like this, especially the first one where it's kind of a little more broad, a little more open, I kind of like to get people at maybe different stations around the room talking about different topics. So there may not be a really long presentation at the beginning that's gonna, go drag on and on. In fact, it's almost better for that first one. We can do it more like an open house where people come and go as they please. We just have the place open for however many hours we have it. So they can come after school, after work, in the afternoon, whatever works better for them. So we can give people time to come in and chat with us if they want to. Usually that's what I'd suggest doing. So, if that's the case, yeah, I'd come up with a list for you based on the venue. Some venues have tables and chairs and things available. Others don't. We may need to borrow those from somewhere else. It's just going to depend on the place. And then I know, like I mentioned, we have some supplies at Leah that we'd be able to provide too and just bring with us. So depending where we go and how we want to do that, yeah, we're going to have to come up with a list. Another thing I should point out too is having a main point of contact. While anyone's free to talk to me, that's fine. It's best I found with these projects if we just have kind of that single point. I don't know if that's going to be Randy or somebody else, but if we have a single point of contact, that's really critical. It's kind of that, too many cooks in the kitchen thing can happen pretty fast, and then it gets really confusing and nobody knows who said what. So you definitely want to make sure we have that identified early on. That doesn't mean everyone doesn't have input, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we understand.
I can certainly do that for you. And-
Okay.
And be that, if that's all right with everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I guess stepping back to the focus of the workshops, one of the things in the broader sense of this whole master plan update has been the fact that in the existing master plan, which I don't know if you have a copy or not, but maybe not.
You just sent me one
Oh,
yesterday.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know there's a bunch of emails that went back.
I
that-
didn't print it yet. It's in that little tablet.
At the end of the day, we're updating this document, which is almost 10 years old now. And the goals and the visions that's described here is, in my view, not well articulated. We talk about rural character, we talk about general statements about what we want the township to be like, but it's not all that operational. It's not really that, there isn't much depth to it. So our hope was that the first session could help put some meat on those bones so that we can get a clearer picture of what people want in the township. And then the second workshop being more how to get there, and being, delving into particular planning issues like, particular zoning amendments that might be made or some changes to the future land use plan, those kind of things that would come out of that. So that was the kind of the premise for the 2 workshop scenario, and to support the update of the master plan.
Yeah. So yes, that was our understanding of it. So hopefully before we even go into the first session, I think it was built into the scope, there'd be at least 1 or 2 meetings, maybe with this committee, and kind of to narrow that down a little bit, because I'm sure there's some sense of what goals and objectives you want to go after. Maybe not totally formed yet, because we need that input. And usually what I'd like to do at those stations that I mentioned setting up is I try to pick topics, like broad topics for each one of them. And from that, I like to give people the chance to comment, or maybe and again, this is kind of flexible. We can do like a sticky dot exercise if people want to, like, I love this, I hate this kind of thing. Whatever we want to do to narrow down that vision. And hopefully at the end of it, you come up with a limited number of like goals for your vision, and then maybe some of those objectives that are going to come after that, more specific tasks that you'd be able to tackle over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
So for some of the topics, would we utilize, again, we're all just digesting this, but there might be something that comes through this. Would we use the survey to generate some of the topics that we would have at the tables?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, because of the process you're already going through right now, that's usually something Leah would do an online kind of survey type thing to figure out what some of those are, but also having these conversations. And I mentioned there's, a couple more I want to have before we have that session. I'm hoping to get out of that kind of where the planning commission is at in the township, what are those priority areas, so it can come from that survey. And everyone of course needs time to digest it. I also just got it too, so I'm not sure exactly everything that's in there yet, but yeah, we would do it through that and through feedback from you, develop those workstations, and then kind of go from there.
All right. Being that you're here, I'd like us to set our goals. And I think, since I'm new to this group, you're gonna have to help me. But so far I'm hearing that we need to set up some goals for the survey, what we're gonna do with that. We need to set up some goals for the outreach meetings and how we're gonna plan that. Is there another topic there that I'm missing?
I think factoring into all this is some sort of a schedule, and that our prior conversations led us to thinking that we were having the first workshop probably towards the end of September, followed by something in early to mid-October. Just because of the seasonal resident situation we have here, there's a number of people that leave.
Okay, so being really, I guess there's just the two goals to work on since Leah's here. Maybe we could work on our outreach meeting goals. What are the main goals that we need for that? Obviously, it's a location.
And once the location's determined, then we need to know the supplies and everything, which I'd put together a list for you that we just kind of a checklist of, and a lot of it Leah will probably bring. But if there are things like we don't have spare tables, I can't bring that kind of stuff. So if we need to set up tables and chairs, those are things we have to find from somewhere.
So location, time, when we're gonna do it.
And you suggested a longer period of time so that it's kind of can come and go.
Well, it's ultimately going to be up to you, but yeah, I would think because of how this was explained to me initially, that you're still in that development stage. You don't have the goals yet. You want to get those first before we get more specific. I've found it's easier if we as a group can say, here's 5-6 stations we want that kind of cover these broad topics at each station. And I'd probably make some kind of like, large scale printout that describes what is going on with that topic, why it's important, and why people should think about it. And then there's a variety of ways to collect input from people. I've mentioned a couple of them already, or a survey they can walk around with or something. But I tend to find that open house style, especially when going through this first segment, is just easier. It's more relaxed. People are like, oh, I don't have to be there and commit to be there from 7 to 8 p.m. And then come to find out that day, oh, my son has a ball game, and I didn't realize I hadn't gone to the store yet, or whatever it is, and then they miss it. I just want to be able to have a nice chunk of time. It might be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours usually. If we can get to 5 to 6 hours, I'd say that's plenty. That's enough. And that you can spread out from like, 3 to however late, or 2 to 6, or whatever works for everybody. Obviously, our schedules are, have to be considered too, but I just find that's just easier. And then when we advertise it, we say, it's from this time to this time. Come by when you have 15 to 20 minutes, and you can walk through, and hopefully most people can get through this whole thing in that amount of time, 20-ish minutes, give or take. That's the goal. So it's not a big burden for somebody to come out and provide that input.
So time wise, for as long as we would be open for the outreach, what are you thinking as far as hours?
Well, I find probably some of the prime hours, and you could go longer than this, is usually like 3 to 6 or 7 p.m. roughly in that time frame. If you want to start a little earlier and go a little later, that's fine. You might get some scragglers on each end, but that generally allows people the time from when they get out of work, or they have to run by daycare, or pick up something from the store after work, or whatever. You just give them that chance. Once you hit the dinner hour, it starts to drop off. People go home, they want to eat, understandably. So that's usually the time frame I try to shoot for, somewhere 3 to 6, maybe 2 to 7, roughly. If we can get that, that'd be pretty ideal.
Okay. So we're talking 4 hours.
Yeah, if you
3
could
to
do
4 hours.
4 to 6.
4 to 6, yeah.
well, or if you did like
4 to 6.
2 p.m. to 7 p.m., so you got
Right.
what, 5 hours there. I mean, that would be,
Yeah.
Right.
you can expect the beginning is usually a little slower, the end's a bit slower and dies down, but your doors are open during that time, and people
Yeah.
will.
I think I would like to see it a little bit longer open, just for people are moving around and they need some time to be able to get there.
And you'll have some people that'll come and go in 10 minutes. Other people hang around for 45 minutes, and that's fine. They can stay as long as they want. That's the intent, so that they have time to talk to somebody. A lot of times too, when you go through this visioning process, that's the big thing, is sometimes people want to be heard. They want their voice heard. So it's important for us to just be there, listen, collect that information.
How many stations are you thinking?
It's really going to depend on how many broader vision goals you have. I would suggest you'd want to have anywhere from about 4 to 6 roughly is a good number. Once you get too many stations, you get to like 10, then people lose interest by the end of it, and they don't want to go through 10 stations.
Right.
You have 2 or 3, it's really not enough, to get all the information out that you want to. So I find to be that 5, give or take. So 4 to 6 is kind of a good middle ground.
Staffing wise, do you staff these stations? Are we going to have to staff these stations? How does that work?
So what I had envisioned was that generally there's kind of like a sign-in table at the beginning where someone will be sitting, and that it doesn't have to be the same person all day. We can rotate out who that is. And that's if we're going to have say you have a survey and pencils you want to hand out, and maybe some simple instructions like, you go to this station, this, and do this and this, and just kind of walk people through that. And then the other folks would be better off kind of hovering around the rest of the station. So how I usually do this is, if say we got 6 stations and 3 people there, you'd put someone between 2 basically, and they can kind of go back and forth. Or if you get tired, want to switch topics, after a couple hours, you can switch who's at which stations. That's fine too. But generally that's about what you want to do. But that ability to kind of move around a little bit's nice, because if one area, if you're not getting as many people going to it, maybe there's less interest in it, you can kind of shuffle over to where there's more people. If one station's getting overwhelmed, 2 people can go over there for a minute and try to, help out in that area.
So for the stations, is that you guys staffing it? Are we gonna have to staff those? How does that work?
Well, so I was assuming it'd be 2 people, one of which is myself from Leah. Randy, I assume you'd be there, and maybe someone from this group, 1 or 2 people maybe, who want to volunteer a little time to help out with the front table and station duties. Like I said, we can rotate, so that if it's kind of getting stale, you want to move away from the front table, you're tired of giving directions, maybe you move, somebody else can come up there for a little bit.
Well, I'm unclear. You had a Randy between 2 stations, but I walk up to a station. What do I see at the station? If Randy is not there, is there a series of questions or?
Yeah, so
If it, I guess it's an unmanned station, not specifically manned. How does the interaction occur?
so
How
that,
do the opinions become expressed?
well, that can happen a number of different ways. Usually I don't like to just rely on a person standing there writing down every comment they get. What would be ideal would be to have something from the welcome station when they come in, they get kind of, and we could develop a quick worksheet or something that allows for feedback. So as you go to each station, you can either write down your comment or answer a couple questions, or maybe there's a little survey in front of it, right, sitting at the station. There's a number of different ways we can do that. So if no one's there, they can at least still come pick up a card, have the opportunity to fill that out. Or, if Randy's standing there, he can say, I'm sorry, if you have any questions, I'll be right over. I'm just finishing up here. And wait just a minute or 2, and then we can kind of bounce back and forth, just so that they know that we see them. There's also, a number of ways you can do that too. I did one that was kind of fun, that I liked, where we used just sticky notes. And we had these stations where you had kind of a blank sheet that asked like a general question about that particular goal. And there was a bunch of information on one side, not a bunch, but enough that people could kind of know why you were asking that question.
Okay.
And then you'd have a sticky note and someone could come up and just write down on the note and plop it right up there. And then now we've, captured whatever their thought is. So that's another way that we could do it too. I wouldn't rely on just one method, but if someone's there to talk to people, maybe they can leave a note or fill a survey question out, something like that would help capture it. So on the way out, they deposit a survey, leave a note, whatever it is.
I would actually like to see somebody at each station. I think it's important when that somebody walks in and they go somewhere, that somebody's there to greet them. And it's not like, well, this question really isn't that important. We don't have anybody there. And I don't know about how everybody feels here, but I think,
I agree.
maybe we could all be there
Yeah,
Oh, for
to
sure.
these.
I would
I
hope.
agree.
I will
I agree.
definitely be glad to be there
I will as well.
and help staff these stations because, if I go to a place and they want to hear what I've got to say and I get there and there's nobody there, like I said, this question isn't really that important.
Right.
So I think we need to make these people feel like when they come in that, they're the person we want to hear from.
I think a
So-
couple of people there to greet, each
Yeah.
station manned, and maybe even some floaters if all of a sudden one of them get really busy.
I like Barry's idea too of the individuals writing down what
Right.
they
Right.
want to
Right.
write. Because I'm sure afterwards, having that stuff written down is a much better way of creating a consensus rather than
Yep.
debriefing me at the station.
Well, and then too, nobody can say that, well, that's not exactly what I said.
Right.
You wrote that down wrong or whatever.
Right.
If they're writing it down and then we could get pictures
Yeah.
of all that, I love that idea.
Yeah, that's what I would do if we're gonna do the idea where people are writing on the notes. We take photos so in case those notes fall off.
Mhm.
So once they go up there, at the end of the night, and come by, take photos.
Yeah.
Like high-res photos we can zoom in on and get the comments and stuff.
Yeah.
The only suggestion I would make, I was noticing the little bit that I did read, there were a lot of, it was not eligible. I mean, legible.
Legible.
It was not eligible either.
Probably don't want to be repeated.
But that might be something that we're just verifying we can read what they're writing.
Well, if you're willing to have someone at each station, I came into this again thinking we had
Sure.
limited people that we're gonna have to spread around a little bit, but if you're willing to stand there and help out and volunteer for that, and somebody, you can't read their writing and you're standing there, oh, what do you mean about the, how
Yeah.
can clear, and you can write it down,
Yeah.
so that we can clarify it.
The 6 stations, if we have 6, we've asked questions in the survey and gotten their response. If there isn't any new information that they have for input, we're just getting their opinion again, so to speak. They're not having more information provided to them, or is there going to be, you don't want to influence their, you want to provide information, but trying not to tell them what to think and say. So that being said, how do we do that?
So that's always a question in the world of planning. You don't want to necessarily influence somebody to say what you want them to say. That's not the point. We want them to feel comfortable saying whatever they'd like. So the kind of statements I'd want to put up there at a station might just describe why the planning commission feels this topic was important and why they'd like feedback on it. And try to leave it at that and not necessarily guide it to an outcome and say, ultimately it's because we want to put a parking. Don't say that necessarily. You can say, if there's a component of it, like, we're looking at this intersection because it's an underserved area that needs, that we feel could benefit from having a park. Would you like to see that there, or is there something else you'd like to see there? What kind of facilities would you want to see? I'm just making this up right now,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but I understand to some degree. It's almost impossible to not 100% plant an idea in someone's head. No matter what you write, people are going to get an idea and probably react to that. There's that little bit of we try to mitigate it the best we can, but that's going to happen a little bit. But I certainly don't want anyone to feel like they have to agree with something the planning commission or township said or not. Chance to.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask, where would the interaction between a group of residents occur? Would it be, if we do an open house format, that wouldn't lend itself to that group session? Would that be the second meeting?
I think you're getting more into the second meeting at that point.
Okay.
I think the first one is really, so before the first open house, we want to have our own
Yes.
kind of goal setting. What are the topics? Because we can't focus on everything, but what do we want to focus on? Pick what those stations are going to be and develop a little content for them. Not a ton, not leading, just enough to provide some backgrounding. The second, after people go through and do that, you now have a survey online. You've had a chance for people to show up in person, and some of the stuff in person might duplicate a little bit of what you're seeing online. Like, we're still going to ask folks for the demographic information when they come in at the welcome station. No, who's showing up? How old are they? Where do they work? The types of things I saw in that survey. Because if they haven't taken the online survey, we still want to collect that information from them and keep it anonymous too. But then give them that chance to react to everything that's going on. And then the second session, I think, would probably be more of a focused, like, group conversations. We might get people together to sit in groups around tables together, and we'll kind of walk through a presentation, say, this is what we heard from the survey online. Here's what we gathered from the public open house. Here are some of the planning commission's thoughts then on what we think are achievable goals and objectives and why we chose these things. And then they'll have a conversation about that, maybe at tables. And that sort of thing. Sorry, Randy.
No, it's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. As far as, I think the two key takeaways here are the issue of preparation. We really need to put thought into how these stations are set up, what information's there, the visuals that go with it, so that people go there and see something that's not leading. I mean, we're not trying to get them to a certain answer. We just want to present the issue in an unbiased way, much like we did with the survey. And then the other issue is transparency and just the results of what people say and what we learn from the meeting is in the plan. I'd like to put those in the appendix typically, you know, the comments that we get back. And so it's as transparent as possible. And then that way you can connect the dots between this was our general vision. This was what people said, how we should achieve it. Here's our plan, our master plan that talks about how we're going to get there.
So in this first session, aren't we taking the information that we get from the survey and just fine tuning it, finding out why, say for instance, the question is, I don't like boats in my front yard. Okay, well, fine tuning that, why is that, you know? Isn't that what we're kind of doing, taking a subject and then saying, trying to just fine tune that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what we're gonna do, so you're already doing this in the right order. You've got the online survey. That is a good place to start for, now you can review that, kind of see what people are saying in there. Ask yourself why they might be saying that. And then try to find the common themes. If you see something come up 10 times, 30 times, why does that keep coming up? Maybe that should be at a station, something like that. You may get some one-off comments. It doesn't mean they're not important. It just means not as many people were thinking about it. And the nice thing about developing that from the online survey is when the people did the online survey, they don't know how anyone else answered. Probably took it at home on their own computer. They don't see anyone else's results. So that's truly a very unfiltered, you know, collection of information. The only problem with the online survey is, and I noticed your demographics skewed a little older that were there, sometimes people don't want to do the online survey, and that's what the in-person survey,
We did
you know,
both.
is
Yeah,
for.
We did a mail and an online, and we didn't have very many online.
The vast majority were male.
Mail.
Yes.
Okay.
Relatively few online responses.
Okay.
And a lot of them, as Denise pointed out, is,
Oh, I
and
thought you
same in
said Denise did it.
my house, we had one
Mhm.
opportunity to do the paper survey mailed in or dropped off. And then the other person in the household had to do it electronic. So I'm wondering if that might even be the majority of the electronic surveys. It was the second person in the household. We are not a tech.
Yeah, our connections are, the internet connections out here are poor.
Yes, and the availability to every household does not have the internet. I don't know how many homes don't, but it's significant. We're just starting to roll it out.
So I think from this, there are a couple of things there. We have some specific questions that we can take what they answered, but then is there a way for us from this survey to be able to see like short-term rental came up quite a bit? So can we actually see how many times short-term rental? Is there a way to get data that might help us generate what the station should be?
I was wondering that myself, if, once we got into the discussion, all of the comments, if there are key words that Networks Northwest could, if this word pops out, what's the total comment?
Right.
And then see that, because there's comments in several sections,
Yes.
so.
I think that since there's 5 of us, maybe we should start with trying to come up with 5 stations, 5 ideas for stations, or maybe come up with 10 ideas for station. Each one of us come up with 2, and then we'll start to narrow it down. So if we could each maybe go through it, skipping back over to the survey. So we'll wait on that a second, but.
Or Barry, would you want to come up with
Yeah.
some proposals to, like, with the sessions, we could work together on and then present that to the, would that be easier, do you think?
Well, I think to start, I'd like you guys to look at what you already have collected, and for maybe write down, I keep seeing short-term rentals come up again and again, and pick whatever your top 10 or whatever it is that you just keep seeing come up. And if there's something specific even about that topic, why does that keep coming up? Short-term rentals and septic systems, why does that keep coming up? And when we get back together, I want to collect your thoughts on what that is and then start clumping things into those stations and go,
Okay.
does this belong over here? And we'll give it a title like, maybe it belongs under environmental, generally speaking, and we'll talk about septic systems, or maybe it, belongs under infrastructure because we keep seeing something about this road come up. Or trails, whatever you want to clump it into, and we'll start to get some topics for each of those stations. Again, keeping this is still pretty broad. So I look at it like what you did with the mail-in survey and online, that's really broad, right? And I think this was in one of your presentations. I liked your slide that showed the really broad one. Now we're going to narrow it a bit into these stations and do the public open house, give people a chance to come out in person and talk about some specific topics or a little bit more specific, but still kind of general. And then the second session gets more specific. So it's like a funnel. It just keeps getting a little more specific until after that second session. My hope is that we have maybe 5, 6 big goals and then some, or less. It could be less. It doesn't have to be that many. I've seen that master plans have like 3, but then they have a lot of specific underneath it, projects or things they want to implement to achieve that goal so that they have some measurement of success over time. You can go back 5 years from now and go, oh, did we repave that road? Did that bike trail ever get put in? Like it was mentioned here that we were going to look into this. And now you have something to refer back.
So my concern is we're looking at having this open house at the end of September, and we're almost the middle of August right now. So we don't have a whole lot of time to be not only
Right.
coming up with topics, but also what are all the visuals and everything that are going to go along with the topics. Do we have enough time to be actually doing this in the right way?
Here's a thought that I'd like to do. Is everybody up to a meeting next week?
No,
I won't be here,
I'm gone next week.
Okay, you won't be.
but I
here
bet I can send an email of my thoughts and that. I won't be here.
My thought is if we could kind of, so we have, this is what I'm working on. I want to get a copy to everybody once we have our goals for the outreach meetings. I'd like to set it up so that we have goals for each week. And if we want to try to get this done by September, like you said, we have to get moving on this. So, if we can agree on these goals and then kind of divvy them up a little bit and do what we need to do and just keep working on them. This will also be something we can take the planning commission and say, this is what we're working on. And as we bring stuff that needs to be approved, we'll bring them to you, but it'll be kind of in this order. Does that make sense to you guys? Is you think weekly is too much? Should we looking at bi-weekly or?
Well, if we can't meet next week, then we'd be into the following week. But I guess what I'm hearing is the first session in late September is the more general one that would probably take a little less time to prepare for.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
The more focused topics would be later in October, which is going to take a little bit more consensus building as far as what topics get the attention.
Well, I would I disagree a little. The first session does take quite a bit of time to put something together like that, to get the stations together. And it's mostly getting the right information that you want out there. And also just coordinating everything else that goes with the day of event. So it can be a little bit challenging. I won't lie. And end of September that's pretty ambitious. I hope, we can move it along to get it to that point. But this happens, I think a lot when I see we're going through a master plan update. This is the part that takes the most time, the public input. You can sit at a computer and research your demographics and all this other stuff, right? But to do the public input part, that's where the time comes in that has to be done, that you have to go through. So it can take a little while to do this. But that was kind of part of why I wanted to come today too. I'm glad we're having this conversation to get you thinking in terms of what are the broad topics you want at each station. Think of 4 to 6 stations you want to do. Pick an overall topic. Like I just mentioned, the good ones are usually like environment, infrastructure, Land use is a huge one because you're gonna have to include that in your master plan update. So I would almost say by default, you need to have like a land use station where we're gonna have a big zoning map put up of your current zoning. And then we'll maybe come up with an exercise where people can look at that or mark on it or something to kind of describe what's going on and why they'll want to see that change. So there's one station for you that I'm just gonna give you.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
great.
Um,
Housing, that housing is, would that be a general topic? Can you go through a list, just off the top of your head, the general topics, and then we can be more specific after with our local issue?
Some of that might be easier for me to do once I see what you've come up with, and then take that and start clumping them together into
Okay.
different topic areas. Because you'd be surprised what you can find in some communities I've worked in, housing is actually could end up falling under land use, because the problem is
Sure.
they don't have, that's the main issues. They don't have the land, or there's something for the housing, or it could fall under like economic development, and it's a workforce development issue because you don't have affordable housing, or it's a combination of the two. But that can change a lot from place to place, and I'm unfortunately just not well versed enough yet in the township to know where that goes.
Speaking of the stations, can you get us a sheet on, or you can just email it to Randy on what we would need to develop a station?
Yeah, I could put together just kind of a general
Right.
thought of what you're gonna have. I'd have to.
So we'll need a topic, and then anything beyond that, because that would help us kind of prepare what, what we need to come up with to each have our own station there.
Yeah.
It might give us an idea in time frame too, like, wow, it's gonna take us a lot longer we thought, or it's not gonna take us as long.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like what you said about the categories being something like environment, infrastructure, land use, transportation, and maybe here it might be redevelopment, might be another possibility. But I guess we can finalize that, but then underneath those categories, the statement about what kind of goals should be relevant to those topics. And that might give us the foundation we need for the new master plan.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, I would, yeah, we'll kind of use whatever you come up with for your station topics, you're probably gonna end up seeing those topics repeated then through the next session, and hopefully into the master plan as you develop the goals and objectives for those.
Yeah, that works.
Just want to run through
I'm looking
this.
at this with the eye towards, the
Right.
master plan's got to get done and it's
Yeah.
got to connect to this.
I just want to read this here, and you guys tell me if I'm missing anything. So for the outreach meeting, we're talking about the first public input session right now. So we need to figure out the date, which we're thinking late September. Time, like between 2 to 7 PM. Stations, 4 to 6. Staffing, we're gonna be staffing stations. There'll be 2 people from, how do you pronounce it, Leah?
Leah, yeah.
Leah, there to help us. And advertising, how do we advertise it? And then location. Is there anything else that you can think of that we're missing there?
Well, no.
Would you have time today to go to Samuel Farm to see if that would be a location that you would consider?
Unfortunately, no, I don't have time today. I've got a pretty booked up day. I'm not familiar with that site, so.
I think we can discuss that a little bit.
It's an old barn.
Yeah, and if there's no heat there,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like if we're gonna do this, it probably should be the same location for both.
Yeah,
Well, that's
And-
what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then if you don't want them to be used to going one place and then they're gonna switch.
right.
So if it's not gonna work when it's not heated.
Yeah, I would say due to the unpredictability, because I think my suggestion for this is you think about developing a timeline. I know everyone always wants to move as quick as we can through the process, but it's important to get it all right. I almost go backwards a little bit when I develop these and go, here's where I'm trying to get to for, this is the open house, right? And as I do that, I'll start to find, how am I gonna get this done in a week or something like that? And then sometimes it gets bumped out a little bit. So when it comes to the only reason I'm bringing that up, with the facility, given that's late September or maybe even October by the time this is we really get into getting a session in there, could be a little cold or a little chilly at that point. So maybe I'd suggest a facility that probably is heated, or if they have access to, like I mentioned, it helps to have a few tables and chairs. Like for each station, you might want a small folding table or something like that. It doesn't have to be any bigger than one of these desks necessarily, because I'm going to bring easels too that I'm going to set up and put boards on that people are going to be able to read off of. But the table's nice because then if you do sticky notes or any kind of writing, you don't want to do that on an easel. They get floppy and flimsy. Struggle with that. I want a solid surface for something like that.
One of the driving forces for the timing is that at the time of our last master plan, there was criticism that the open houses were later in the season, and there are a number of seasonal residents who felt that they could not voice their opinion at these open houses. Though I was happy to see on the people that responded to this, 483 of the 609 were full-time residents. So
Okay.
it's a minority by a large degree of the people who responded to the survey who were seasonal residents.
Do you have an idea of how many or what percentage or how many seasonal residents you roughly have in the township?
Well, from the survey, we had 81 seasonal residents respond to the survey.
Yeah.
So that's a
81.
pretty big part of the response.
A lot of people consider themselves full-time
13%.
residents that go to Florida for 3 to 6 months in the winter, which
Okay.
is, no, this is their primary residence, is where we vote and we do everything, but we just happen, a lot of them, I did not realize this, is October 1st to, they have to be 1 day short of 6 months, so they figure out when to come back in March.
Okay.
So, I mean.
I've heard of that, yeah.
But, we're trying, we just,
Do the best we can.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, even though Samuel's Farm has maybe no heat, if they would let us bring space heaters, no, you don't think so?
It's a really big barn.
Oh, okay.
I was there for a square dance thing, and it was nice out, but it's really big. I don't know that you could accommodate it.
I only bring that up, my concern, because of the time. You never know. End
Right.
of September could
Could be
be
gorgeous.
80, it could be
Yeah.
40. You know,
Right.
we have no idea
Right.
the day of the open house.
I just dress appropriate, but anyway, the other reason I was kind of thinking about that was if someone had children, they could just bring their children, and in an open house setting, they could walk through with their children and answer, fill out some forms or whatever, and keep moving and go wherever they were going to go. But that was kind of my pushing.
It's a cool facility,
Yeah.
and people are only going to be there, you said, maybe 10, 15 minutes. It's going to be the people that are manning the stations that will have to dress accordingly if it's cold.
Yeah. Because if it's cold outside, you're going to wear your coat.
Right. So.
What do you think?
Well, I think that location is such a huge point to this, and how comfortable people are when they get there. I mean, obviously, if it's not going to have heat and it's going to be cold out, we're going to have to tell everybody, hey, there's no heat, come, and then some of the older folks might say, well, I'm not going to come if there's no heat. So I think we need to find a place that is easy access. If they have kids, they could just bring them in with them real quick and then go. I think the Turtle Creek thing is just too much to have to park in.
Yeah, and to walk.
And then go through escalators, come up to
Yeah.
wherever you're gonna go.
So we have the two schools though. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
both
the
Mill
other
Creek
options.
and
Schools and churches tend to
Yeah.
be also pretty popular. Uh, just-
What about the church right here? I mean, would that,
I don't know much
Didn't they
about
Did
it.
we
talk
say that
about
was a
that?
no or something?
Yeah, there wasn't enough seating, maybe 60, 65.
Rod had made the comment, thinking that it was going to be more of a presentation where everybody's sitting, which
Yeah.
may or may not be the case now that we're talking to you, that the basement at the church there on Williamsburg Road was maybe not big enough, but perhaps for this kind of a setting, it would be more appropriate.
I've
How
not been
big-
in that
The
venue.
other
so-
How
thing,
big a
you know,
room
this-
do you need for 6?
So, I mean, really, you know, if you even cleared this room out and had like 6 stations spread out, keeping in mind people are coming and going. So even if you get 150 people that show up, they're probably not gonna show up at the same time.
Parking issues.
This would, well.
well, I
yeah.
wouldn't want to do it.
No, we
here.
wouldn't.
Just to give you an idea of
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
suggesting
Okay.
do it here.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, but
Yeah.
this is the appropriate.
So
size.
maybe that, maybe the
This or
church.
bigger,
This
a
would be
little
the
bigger if you
smallest.
could. I wouldn't go smaller than something like this.
Would you hold both sessions, workshops in the same location? Does that?
You don't have to. I mean, for the second session, what you may end up with is some bigger tables with people around them, and then you may have 60, 80, 100 people all
At
at
the same
once
time.
at the same time. And because that's gonna be a, 2-3 hour session, where we're gonna talk about what we learned from the mail-in and online surveys and the open house and kind of try to bring it all together and get focused discussions around each table. But for this, where you have people coming and going, they're not all gonna be there at once and it's spread out over a longer time period. So you don't have to have it in the same space because you don't really have the same requirements for each session. The second one you need a lot bigger than this. Depending how many people you think are coming. I guess I should ask that first if you have any idea.
That's hard to gauge because
Yeah.
we've not really had that kind of event here that I know of. I mean, here in the township. So it's it might be a overwhelming.
How many
kind of event.
respondents did you have on that? survey?
623.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have quite a few that are gonna show up then.
Mhm.
I mean, 100 people.
And it was suggested that we have that both events are in the same place. So we almost have to accommodate the fact that we need a larger venue.
Mhm.
That would be my other caution then about the heat with the location that you were talking about, because now that session could be
Later.
November or
Mhm.
something, and it's gonna be even colder
It'll be
out.
cold for sure.
So, yeah, I'd look for, if there's a school, community center, church, something along those lines that would be willing that has readily available parking that can accommodate the people.
Just to be clear, we're talking about one day here, right?
Mhm.
And what day of the week are we talking about?
That we have to decide what day that's going to be.
Would that be a weekend? Would that be a weekday?
Not a weekend.
No, a weekday.
Thursday nights are usually really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say typically, you took the words out of my mouth. Typically Wednesdays, Thursdays are even better. Towards the end of the week there, just before the weekend, that tends to be a sweet spot. Mondays and Tuesdays bad. Don't make it a Monday or Tuesday. You will
Yeah.
get very limited turnout.
Wednesday, you have to be careful with church. I do a lot of workshops.
Okay. Then maybe we should shoot for Thursday.
Maybe Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of look to you for guidance a little bit on that. My recommendation's always like, Thursdays are good, but that depends on the community I'm in. So you know your community of when people might be
Yeah.
available to show up.
Okay, so this is good. Then we got between 2 to 7 approximately on a Thursday, late September. We just gotta find a place to do it at.
And as far as advertising goes, once we know the date, time, and location, I think Randy, you sent me some stuff that you already had advertising layouts for, like when you.
We did something for the survey that was a flyer that we could easily modify for
Okay,
this. So
so that can be modified. That's easy enough to do. Do you have like I know we just talked about internet and everything, so I think I know the answer to this, but do you have like online social media or anything like that?
Well, our treasurer has a email list of people in the community that she sent out notices about the survey, and I presume we would ask her to also advertise this that way for those that
Yep.
are internet connected and savvy or.
And
on
then would
that
we want to
list.
think about doing a mailing?
Well,
Even if it's a
signs.
postcard or,
mailings can get quite
Expensive,
expensive quite
right,
fast.
right,
Yeah.
I can tell you, I definitely did not build that into a budget to do a mailing, only because I know it could cost a lot of money. I would say if you have that email list, a flyer that we can post at the township hall, maybe if there's some other locations people go to that are public, we can post
Newspaper.
them.
Businesses.
Newspaper, yep.
We even had some
Office
signs
hours.
made up before for the survey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's everything we did before.
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. We
Ditto.
sort of-
Modify the signs. We have 20 roadside signs.
We did for the survey.
that we use
Yeah, it was
for the
nice. I saw one
survey
right
that
at
we
the end
could
of our,
modify.
right at the end of our subdivision. I saw one.
Yeah, my
Um,
husband said, nice job on the signs, by the way.
Okay, so you have email, but like Facebook or anything like that, or is that not? I just want to be sure we cover all the ground. If it's not worth it, we can skip it.
Yeah, official website, other than the governmental one, is Whitewater Township Park. But there's an official Whitewater Township Park and then an unofficial one.
Okay. Well, if it, I would also, I only ask because, sometimes if your online presence is very small or, not a lot of people use it, it may not be worth developing that, maybe we focus on some of the other avenues. The email list is good. That's really good if we can get an email list.
Mhm.
Um,
It's just not complete. I mean,
No,
it's, but
only about
it's,
1,000
that's okay.
addresses.
If that's a lot, that's okay, because the more, I never expect an email list is gonna be everybody in the township, but if enough people hear about it, start talking about it, get a
Yeah.
little buzz going, that
Right.
helps.
All right. I think we've got plenty here to do.
Yeah.
I would like to move on to the survey just to see what things we need to do to help. Yes, thank you very much. And you might have some input on the survey too.
Yes, I do have to get going. though,
Okay.
But,
Okay.
no, I'm glad we were able to get through all that. There's a lot to think about right now, so maybe we'll circle back next week and touch base or something.
yeah.
and
So
kinda-
is there another meeting date that we're going to be setting up? Maybe when Barry's here, we could, are you going to be available by Skype or not Skype, but Zoom or in person if we're going to meet again?
Yeah, if you meet again, because you're so close by, it's not a big haul for me to come out here. So, just let me know. And if you want to just give me an opportunity to respond with, what dates might work with the rest of my schedule, but I'm happy to come back, or at least if I can zoom in, if I have, yeah.
If next week isn't gonna work, what about the next, the 24th?
Oh, yeah.
So
Anything
Are you a
of that
township
week.
resident?
I'm an East Bay resident.
Okay, I'm just curious, because you said you're
Does
nearby.
the 24th sound
I
okay?
can't make the 24th.
Okay,
I'm pretty
But I think everybody else can, you have enough.
but would you be willing to have some things done for the
Oh,
24th? for
absolutely,
that? Okay.
absolutely. I could be
Okay.
available via Zoom.
Okay,
I'm free that whole week.
it would a different day work better?
On Thursday, the 24th,
Yes,
in the morning?
yes,
Okay, yeah.
okay,
9:00.
all right.
I'll be
available.
via Zoom.
I'm available also at 9 AM on the
Good.
24th.
Okay. One way or another, either Zoom or person.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Is the room available?
24th
and
at-
we'll
Yeah,
see if
so
we
we
can
can
have
work on that.
some stuff done for that. If you could get us just that little list of what the outreach group would look like.
Yep.
So that we could work on that, maybe have our little groups done by then.
Yeah, and if I don't get an email back to Randy about that today, it'll be tomorrow. but
That's
I'll
fine.
get to you as quick as I can.
All right. Is there anything else we want to quick talk about this, about the outreach meeting before we move on to the survey?
So
We're good? Okay. Thank you
great
very
that-
much.
it's great that you were
Yeah.
able to be here.
Yeah.
No, I'm really glad we were able to make this work
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you
I
so
also
much.
wanted to move quickly because when I heard that September date, I thought, ooh, there's a lot to do.
There's a lot
That's
to do.
right.
Yeah.
That's not right, so.
Thank
So you didn't hear anything that we were missing in that?
Not off the top of my
Okay.
head, I'll go through and kind of look at it again. I didn't come more prepared because this happened so quick.
Right.
but,
Well, if you think of anything, just send it to Randy and he'll give it to us.
Yeah, I'm gonna put together just an email, let's kind of summarize this a little bit, what we talked about, the process, what we were kind of thinking of going through. And I'm glad we have that at least laid out now, open house style, down to group discussion style. That gives me some direction.
Perfect.
now, so
Right.
that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
and-
much.
Thank you.
And
Alright.
I believe Randy will be able to forward you the final
Yeah, I'll
survey
get that.
results. So
I'll get
what
that.
you have, it would be just inaccurate preliminary report.
We'll get you the final one.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again.
What's the difference between?
The two. I'll look at it. I was going to just ask everybody that I sent the preliminary report to, if you could just delete it. And then that way you'll have the official final report that I sent this morning or last night, whenever you got it. I don't know, I was up late and but the one that Randy mentioned that we should not send out to anyone because it's incomplete, and
We want the one that says 6:10 PM MDT. Mountain.
the one that you looked at. this
August
morning.
9th, 6:10
August 9th,
PM.
6:10 PM. That's the
Yeah,
correct
that's-
one, even
that's
though it
the-
says Default report.
Yes, although hopefully we can
Yeah, the
change that.
default one, yeah. Yeah, because Randy's correct. We don't want different versions going out and around and people working with different data.
Or people seeing that their comments weren't in the report.
Yeah.
So,
So under the survey, of course, the planning commission is going to be looking at that
next
next
week.
week. What should our goals be with the survey? Obviously, it's going to be to come up with sessions, idea sessions, for us to get together, and then maybe we can have that before our next meeting. How do you suggest we narrow it down? Any ideas?
I'm sorry, for me, that the main thing is getting a date.
Date of,
Of the, yeah, and the location and,
well, we're talking about just the survey now.
okay.
No,
Oh, I'm
we're-
sorry.
Out of the outreach meetings,
All right,
talking about just the survey.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm just trying to get this all straight in my head. That's why I have to quick do this. So the survey, what goals do we have with that?
Well, I think it
We
would be
have it now,
helpful.
so-
I think it'd be helpful for everybody to kind of write down their takeaways from the survey, for one thing. I mean, just read it. I mean, what are your takeaways here from this? What's surprising? What's not surprising? What themes are you seeing in here? What surprises are here? That's that you didn't expect, or what confirms what you thought. If everybody did that, then we can combine that information. I mean, I think ultimately the action from this group is to recommend to the planning commission that we accept the report and make it available for
Yeah.
the public.
And their meeting is next,
Is it-
this special meeting is.
Yeah, is it Tuesday or Wednesday or
The
next week?
15th. I think we might want to come up with something before that meeting.
It's next Wednesday, yes.
Yeah,
But
Come up with, what do you mean, come up with something?
well, they're having
Right.
a meeting, so I'd like to have us, give some feedback from what we've done.
Oh, here's what I suggest then is if you each want to go through this and like Randy said, get your takeaways and what you feel is important on this survey, then email it to me. I'll come up with just a little report that we can give the board.
That you can give the.
Is that all right?
perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
To the planning commission.
To the planning commission
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
So if you can get that to me, by the end of this weekend, I can throw it together Monday or Tuesday and have something ready for Wednesday.
So we don't really need to limit it because Mr. Hicks said that he could narrow it into one topic if we come up with many.
Right, yeah, this is just an
Yeah.
overview right now,
Yeah.
how,
Let him try to organize the
Yeah.
different topics and
Yeah, and I'm sorry, because what else would you like to talk about the survey?
I'm just wondering, what else do we need to do with it?
I think that's it. As he
Okay.
mentioned, if he suggested this, we all come up with what we've see, and then he'll narrow it down into the big topics.
Yeah, I mean, for a group of 5 people, this seems a little bit overwhelming to get all this survey information.
Right,
And the reason I suggested this meeting was to try to boil it down a little bit, because for a group of 10 people in the planning commission, it's going to be even more overwhelming and people talking from all directions. I think if we can congeal the ideas a little bit, it may be helpful for the
Would be
planning
very
commission.
Yeah.
so if you can get it to me by Sunday, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And then I'll put it together in kind of a meeting, and I'm gonna add this, kind of our goals for the outreach meeting, what we're gonna be doing. So I guess for the survey, that is it. Do we want to, anything more on the survey before maybe we can work on
So
things to do
actually,
each?
I know you're wanting to say date. So actually, as he was saying, if we
Right.
came up with this and Mr. Hicks, is it Barry?
Barry.
Barry,
Barry.
if he had all this, it sounds like he can start working on the topics. So then we'll have to be working on location and all that. So probably the next one is the date and trying to work, I guess, backwards.
And that depends on venue, so.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I want to go back to. I didn't. Mill Creek, it's just if it's available, we have forms to fill out and everything and money, fees to pay. But Thursdays, I was just looking at their calendar because homecoming, they said in September, it's the 22nd and 23rd. The Thursday before that's the 21st. I don't know if that's a good time with all of the parades and getting ready and, maybe the 28th. Because I think the 14th is too
Too
soon.
soon.
28th of September?
Yeah, is that, give me like 2 dates to fill out the form. Well, it all depends. Where you want to have the,
Well, it sounds like almost by default, it's gonna be the school.
Yeah.
Because we have to
Mhm.
look, if we're gonna do one location and we need something that would accommodate a bigger group.
yeah.
So then maybe the 28th is our first choice.
Yeah, and I was hoping that it would be at a venue such as the school or the farm, Samuel Farm, because I want, if during the week with parents, if they can pick up their kids from school and then just kind of
Right.
roam through it.
Right.
Uh-huh.
That may be an issue with the school if it starts at 3 though. I'll have to,
Okay.
right.
And if it's okay with you guys, I'll check with the Woodland School.
You know,
yeah.
Woodland?
my thought, I know where Woodland School is.
Yeah.
My thought is that the school, and I don't even know is it an elementary school
Mill
right
Creek.
over here?
Yeah.
Is more centrally located.
Okay.
Woodland is kind of on the periphery
It
of
is. It's way down
of Whitewater. That's my only concern. That somebody who lives up near where you live, Denise, probably isn't gonna want to drive all the way down there. Or it would be a burden or a potential barrier or something more central, I think might
So is
be.
everybody agree then? We try to use
Yes.
the school here? Okay, so the
Yeah.
28th and see if you can come up
Ideally.
with that. And then,
And then that gives us more time for the first session, but the second one, how much later do you want the second one? That's,
that's gonna depend on the
And you-
first one, so.
But you're gonna need some time to actually
Yeah.
even get
Yeah.
information from, so I don't think we should be rushing this. I mean, if you're gonna
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
the 28th, I mean, Randy, you've done this
Yeah.
before, how much
Can
to
you get?
assimilate?
Yeah, We want several weeks between, to be able to
Yeah.
digest it.
I'm gonna call today and see if it's
Okay, because
available.
I'll put that in our PC
Because if
report.
it's not available,
If we
we have to
can,
come up with it. Maybe what will happen is, I'll find out the dates that are open around the last 2 weeks of September
Or the 5th of October.
or the 5th of
Even
October.
Worst case,
Yeah.
yeah, if we
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
I say the
And-
28th, number one, the 5th, second.
The 5th of October 2nd, and you definitely wanted a Thursday then.
Yeah.
I'll look at their October calendar.
That way we can try to add that into our report to the.
yep, that
PC
sounds good.
board.
No, there's no school on the Monday following October 5th, so I don't know if people will take off on the trip.
Oh, it's Columbus
School on
Day?
the 5th and
Is it
6th.
Indigenous, yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
it's okay.
A
We,
little different.
But There's school on the 5th and the 6th. Right?
yeah, there is,
Yeah.
but people kind of,
Yeah, they won't be gone. They'll be leaving Saturday, they'll leave Friday.
yeah, so that gives us, and that's the elementary school. I don't know what the high school
Does,
has
and
going
you had
on.
mentioned homecoming. Does that impact the elementary school?
The parents have, if they have more than, older children.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of activities and excitement, the football game.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if we can come up with a suggestion for the planning commission on a place, that'd be big,
Yeah.
for us this time. If we
What
could
is,
do that.
what,
The location,
curious, what does the school charge?
I don't know, we've paid it so many times, I have the form, but it's not
It's not
significant.
$1,000 or anything like that.
No,
I think that would be an ideal location and got parking in the bathrooms, that's heated, they got the chairs. I mean, that's easy peasy.
And then we could maybe shoot for trying to be ready for the more intense meeting at the end of October. Potentially 1st of November, depending on how much information, how long it takes to.
we're having the Halloween party at Whitewater.
Tell you.
I was
I think
just,
it's, I think it's in September, actually,
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering.
but it's a Saturday.
I don't know,
I'll tell you in one moment.
yeah,
So for our next meeting, a goal maybe would be to try to have stations ready. That's 2 weeks. You'll get something from
from Barry.
on what we need, information we need for stations.
We'll have some material for you
Um,
to look at in the meeting.
By that time, we'll have some information from the planning commission, what they're thinking as far as maybe some what they would like to see as topics. And then maybe we could kind of, with the emails, kind of divvy it up a little bit, and you have an interest in something, you could say, I'm gonna attempt at this one. And then we'll bring it to Barry, if he could be at the meeting, or if not, we can just give it to him after the meeting. And at least that gets us a start, even if we have to change it up a little bit,
Mhm,
at least it gives us a basis.
mhm,
And I think it'll give us a good jump start. Does that sound okay?
mhm.
One other thing, I really like the Samuel's Farm venue, but then it occurs to me that when the master plan is done and we're getting final comments on a draft document, that may be a place that we could hold an event, because that would align to something in the spring or perhaps even early summer next year when it's all written and done. So
Mhm.
we can keep that in mind for that.
I like the idea of using the farm for just to highlight it.
Mhm.
I've never been there yet, and I've lived here 13 years.
Yeah.
I know where it is,
Yeah.
but I've
Yeah,
never
me too.
stopped. So,
I didn't know they had that venue out there. That's pretty cool.
I'm thinking, a lot of people have asked me about wedding venues, and I've never even thought of them.
Hmm.
So,
That's one of 13 National Register sites in Grand Traverse County.
Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty cool, I think.
All right, is there anything else we needed to talk about here in this meeting?
So the survey report's being recommended to the planning commission then for
Yes.
adoption. Okay.
And with that will be a document that I send along that'll have all of our takeaways.
Perfect.
You want that by the weekend?
Yes, by Sunday, if that's possible.
Okay.
So I can get it ready.
A lot of information.
We were wondering when the
Yeah.
Halloween party was.
Last Saturday in September or something like that. I don't know the exact date.
It just wasn't on the website.
Sure,
It would
Cheryl,
be the 29th.
would you know about the availability of this room at any point in August?
Yes, you can also access that on the Google Calendar on our website. But do you have
Okay.
a specific date you want me to look at?
24th.
The 24th at 9 AM.
We are looking for a date, possibly for a joint meeting with Acme. And I believe that was one of the days, the 16th. Let me look.
Would the joint meeting be here?
What is your email so that I know to email this to? You're probably, Keith, you probably have it somewhere, but
Oh, yeah, just, you know,
it's probably
to
part of the group, but
just keithdeyoung@gmail.com.
You would be bumped. There's a possibility that there would be a meeting here, but there's lots of other possible dates for the meeting that Cheryl's talking about.
Well, let's plan on the 24th at 9 AM. And if for some reason, Cheryl, that doesn't work, let us know.
We'll change it.
Yeah, I'll pencil that in on here, so.
All
right. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. So when I contact Mill Creek, and, you know, if, I'm gonna give you, if the 28th is not available, and if it's not, you know, there, if we want it to
3 to 7. I should-
three, yeah, because we had 2 to 7, I think, and
Right.
we've changed it. You know, if we can't get in there till 3:30, because
Well, we'll need
Whatever
setup time.
works, so,
whatever works.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll need setup time. So maybe ask if it is available 2 to 7.
Well, yeah, if we're, and I would suspect that we would use the gym,
Probably.
and
They might still have classes going.
yeah, I'll have to find out when the last gym class is, and I can go in and pretend.
Go in and play dodgeball.
Mhm.
They don't play that. I love it, but they don't play that anymore. I don't think they're allowed to play dodgeball.
The way schools are now, I'm wondering if we're even allowed to be in there while they're having classes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can.
what?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
We had to go through a background check to read to my granddaughter's kindergarten class.
I know, it's crazy.
Anyway, I'll send you a date or two. And we'll kind of, I think we can kind of, can we decide off, you know, out of the meeting, what date to choose for?
There's a tentative date we can.
Yeah, because we're representing the planning board anyways, so.
Yeah, they have to approve it.
Right. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned at 10:33. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lois.
You did a good job of jumping into deep water, Keith.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I kind of focused on a few things, but it's like, I got to get it in my head.
Yeah.
You did fine.
Great.
I guess more than